Good morning, everyone. Grace and peace and abundance be with all of you today and always. Welcome to Not Church, no doctrine, no dogma, no BS, just mysticism. We're a growing and diverse community of spiritual seekers and mystical experiencers seeking to activate the light within us while exploring the mystical teachings of Jesus here on Sunday mornings. I'm Reverend Peter Panagore, MDiv, two-time near-death experiencer, best-selling author, Yale Divinity School grad with a focus in ancient mysticism, plus 40 years of contemplative practice. Not Church uses the tools of deconstruction to understand the code switching of the teachings of mystical Jesus, who always used metaphor when he talked about heaven. So please subscribe, and click alert. If you like Not Church, if it's ever helped you on your journey, thanks. It really helps. You say hi to folks, Joe, Tamra, Belinda, and North Africa. Wow. Good morning, everyone. Hi, Connie. Thank you, Tamra. That's very nice of you for using Super Chat. So we begin by centering ourselves. And we do this together because where two or three are gathered, I am there. And it turns out that the I am is the divine presence of God that is always here, the Christ consciousness, the holy source, the divine other, however you want to define this, Brahma, Allah. This means that when two or three are gathered in meditation and in prayer, the power of the presence multiplies between us, and there's no distance in the divine. So I'm here in my little studio on the coast of Maine, and I'm looking into my lens, and wherever you are watching this on your screen, we are connected through the ethers and the old language of the theosophists. I think that they're the ones who came up with the ethers, the spiritualists. It's through the divine presence, the quantum field, however you want to define that. We are united together when we focus ourselves together in our practice. The I am is here always and multiplies between us. And this means that where two or three are gathered, we are more powerful for each other in our practice. It takes effort. Spiritual life takes effort to quiet the stories we tell ourselves inside our heads in order to discover who we actually are beyond the duality, beyond the egoic mind, right here in our hearts. And I want to thank you, Steve and Lee, for those gifts this morning. I very much appreciate it. You are the divine. You have the divine in you. The light lives inside you, and the truth will set you free. The truth is already in you. So let's begin Not Church this morning before we get to my prose poem for you all today, The Bad Boy Jesus Christ. Let's begin with some centering prayer preceded by 3 verbal Om chants. And if you want to know more about centering prayer practice, you can check out my video, Meditation Made Easy. So we're going to energize our spirituality, energize the presence of the divine, energize our relationship with each other with chanting 3 ohms this morning with a belly full, thanks Connie, with a belly full of air and our lungs filled with air, and we're going to resonate our hearts and our throats and our third eye chakra. Then after we do that 3 times, we're going to relax, settle in, and belly breathe only, letting our lungs fill naturally. So 2 sets here. That kind of thing, and chanting with just your belly breath. And we're going to do a little bit of centering prayer together, 3 minutes or so, 3 breaths or so of centering for ourselves and riding our breath and letting your prayer chant, your mantra ride on your breath like a butterfly on your palm. No grasping, no crushing that butterfly, just letting it sit there, just mentally focusing your breath on your third eye. So here we go. Thank you, David, very much, brother. All right, so here we go. 3 ohms together. And since I'm the only one on camera here, you don't have to worry about how you sound. And you yogis and yoginis who have practiced this before, join me in this especially. So here we go. 3 ohms, then about 3 breaths of centering. Relax. Belly breaths. And now, a prose poem titled The Bad Boy, Jesus Christ, which presupposes that you know some of the gospel stories in his life. Jesus ditches his caravan and his parents for days as they worry and backtrack only to find his snarky 12-year-old reply. Jesus calls a foreigner, a woman, a dog. After she asked him for food, she was starving. Bitch, he says, can't say that on YouTube. He says, none for you. And she corrects him, and he softens when he looks and sees her heart, understanding his error, and gives her bread. Jesus ruins a pig farmer's economy when he casts out demons and he sends 1,000 pigs hurling themselves down to drown in the lake. So I ask you, he calls the woman a dog. He ditches his parents. He ruins the economy of a poor pig farmer. Does Jesus misbehave? Hungry Jesus curses and kills a tree because there's no fruit out of season. Angry Jesus freaks out, smashing up the temple because of greed. Good people on both sides were outraged. The clergy conspired together with the government to kill him. Weeks before, he cursed those who, and the clergy, with the woes be unto you guys. Woe be unto you, clergy, for your blindness, oppression, greed, wealth, self-importance, egoism, ignorance of justice and mercy, both of which are forms of love. And worst of all, you clergy, you take away the mystical key of knowledge. Not belief, but grace, wisdom, Sophia, noetic, direct, mystical understanding, noetic knowledge, saying, you clergy, you don't enter heaven yourselves. And you stop everyone else from learning love by twisting the law of love into hate that serves yourself and gives you power and stops millions who seek to experience the living heaven among us. Woe unto you who teach the Bible but do not love with the radiance of love from above. Hate speech from pulpits poison the minds and souls and hearts of millions. Woe to you who lock and guard the gates of heaven from the outside, not the inside. The blind leaders of hate who don't see the light of love, leading the blind, who only want the love and the light but can't get it because the gates are locked, who twist the Bible to their own ends. Beware the clergy who like to walk around wearing $1,000 suits, fresh picked from a closet full, driving $100,000 cars, flying in private jets, and living in $1 million mansions, who love to be greeted with respect, to have the best seats everywhere they go, and ever increase the honor in their own eyes and the eyes of their neighbors and their nation. They devour poverty's house, keep the American caste system in place, and forsake their own image of their own appearance for their whitewashed outsides with the dead bones within. They preach, teach, and mislead. He was talking then and talking now. This bad boy, Jesus, who insults religious leaders, who say, Jesus, you insult us. And Jesus, he insults them more. The lawyers of literalism, the clergy who are locking the doors and pocketing the keys and pocketing the gold. We know them by their fruits of hate speech, which hurt the living children of God, all of whom are beloved. Beware the clergy who congratulate and coagulate their self-faith and their faith with politics of hate, who ignore justice and mercy to keep power in place. Jesus threatens, saying they will receive the greater condemnation. Jesus was a bad boy. He was willing to learn when the dog told him, when the woman told him, he called her a dog. When the woman told him, the foreign woman told him, even the dogs get to eat the crumbs, and his heart softened. He was a bad boy willing to learn, to turn more to love, even when speaking truth to power, no matter who it hurt, including his mom, his dad, when he ditched them, the woman, the one he called a dog, the tree, the animals, a farmer, bankers, lawyers, clergy, and he even hurt himself. So I have to ask you, what do you think it means to be enlightened? Do we call out the bad theology when we see it because it leads to ignorance and fear, which leads to anger, which leads to hate? Do we ignore the bad theology that keeps real people oppressed, real honest people who seek the divine, that keeps them oppressed and excludes them by locking them into their systematic places of repression? Do we keep silent about that? Jesus didn't. And he got in trouble. He was a bad boy, that man. When did I see you hungry, poor, cold, sick, thirsty, imprisoned, a foreigner, oppressed, repressed, excluded, and give you food, shelter, warmth, health, water, conversation, support, and stood for justice and mercy, Lord? Jesus says, when you did it to anyone, you did it to me. Namaste. The God in me sees the God in you. The God in me serves the God in you. The light in me serves the light in you. The love in me serves the love in you. And that's what made him bad. He loved love and light more than rules and religion. He misbehaved, sometimes ignored the emotions and financial well-being of others, even some of those who loved him. This wasn't about perfection of humanity in the body of Jesus. It was about finding the light and the love and learning to live with enlightenment. The beauty of Jesus was his humanness and his enlightenment. As for us, our beauty is summed this way: they will know us by our love. Remember that hymn? And they will know we are Christians by our love. They will know we are awakened by our love. They will know we are self-realized with a capital S, not the little tiny s, but the self-realization of the union of God by our love. And sometimes love appears to be misbehaving because you choose the higher over the lower. You choose the divine over the self because you choose the light over the darkness. And sometimes it looks like judgments. Jesus was calling out the clergy of his day, and they thought, oh, he's so judgy. He's such a judgy judge. They will know us by our love. And as for me, I choose an imitation of a life like Jesus. I try to listen to his words, not what they tell me he said, not what they tell me what the meaning was, because I don't look at love through the lens of the Bible. I look at the Bible through the lens of love, through the lens of self realization with a capital S, through the lens of light. And I listen to this guy and I realize that he's as human as me. And he says to me, I am the light of the world. You are the light of the world. He says to us that. He tells us to say that to ourselves. We are the light of the world. We are connected to the divine in our humanness, like him. So sometimes our misbehavior is learning to grow up in our spirituality. Jesus changed when the woman called him out. Even the dogs get the crumbs. And his heart softened. And he killed that fig tree because it didn't have fruit on it out of season. I mean, how human can you be when you're angry about something that isn't even expected by anybody who knows anything about fig trees? But he acts out of his emotions just like all of us. And yet he grows, and yet he grows in light and love and tells us we are just like him. We too can grow in light and love. We too can show people that they will know us by our love. Know us by our love. And that's it for today. That quick little thing, the bad boy Jesus Christ. So now you can join us for our chat right here and at the top of the next hour, the Mystic Tea Salon, where there's room for you to bring in your mystical experience in a safe place. You can find the links at peterpanagore.love, where you can book time with me to talk, find videos and links of all kinds. And if you're a regular here, you may want to subscribe to my weekly email to keep up, especially people who go to the Mystic Tea Salon. So thanks everyone for the support that you've given this morning, Capital One, David and Catherine, and the super chat. It's been very great. And those of you who give through PayPal and Venmo, super thank you, because your gifts make this channel possible. So let's take a moment here. You're welcome, Lee, and recenter ourselves. And then I'll come back to Arian's question. So Arian Nira says, speaking our truth can be heard very different to people who feel another truth. Can you please comment on this? That was what the problem Jesus had. They had a very different truth than his. Mostly, I live a life of observation. I try not to tell people what to think or what to do. But sometimes you have to stand up. And sometimes you have to say the truth of your heart. And that is, the truth of the heart is this, that if an action is out of real love and compassion and kindness, that's very different than an action that arises from some presupposition of some theology that excludes and hates. I don't expect anything I say to change anybody's mind. I'm not here to convert anyone. I'm not even here to irritate anybody with making any sort of pronouncements. And I know that people who hear me have their own lens that they hear through, and that's true with Jesus too. I let people live in their own truths as long as as long as they live with love, which is why I can be friends with Krishnas and Baha'is and Jews and Muslims and Christians. And their truths are all different, except for the one thing that unites us all, and that is living through love and compassion. That's the uniting thing. And so I don't tell my Baha'i friends that what they think is wrong because it leads them into light. And I don't tell my evangelical friends that what they think is wrong as long as they live with the love and light without the hate. I don't expect to convert anyone. I just try to live through love and make mistakes like Jesus, who was totally misunderstood by most of the people who heard him. He just kept trying to teach love. That's all he was trying to do. And I hope that helps some. Jesus didn't come to be the Christ, he came to become Christ. That's the experience to look we look toward the path. Amen to that, Robert. I'm not fluent in English. What is the story about the woman he called the dog? He was at a dinner table, and there's a woman who showed up, and she was really hungry, and she was a foreigner, not his religion, not his culture, not his nation, not his people, and there was a lot of bigotry against those people. um, and a lot of prejudice against those people. And so he felt justified in saying that I'm not going to give you any food. I've only come here for the Jews, and I'm here as part of the Jewish nation, and I'm here to help the Jewish people. And she said, you know, even the crumbs fall from the table, and the dogs get to eat that. Give me something. And then he saw past her nationality and into her heart and saw love there. I'd love to give you the gospel location, but you'd have to look it up. I don't have that off the top of my head. I hope that helps a little bit. Yes, I agree. Sometimes you need to speak up, but be careful how you do it. Some people do not understand. Yeah, and when you speak up, you put yourself at risk. Here I am. I'm doing this on video, and I did all the television stuff, but and I never I never really got in much trouble during my television days. But when I was a pastor, oh, it was really easy to step on people's toes because their toes were filled with their egos and their power. And whenever you questioned that, they came back with claws and teeth. And you got to know that when you talk, when you speak up, you're going to take a few beatings for it. That's the way it goes. Nice thought, Robert. It's more satisfying to improve than to compare ourselves to perfection and fall short. Exactly. This is a process. Jesus had a process from calling to awakening to realization to enlightenment to resurrection. Steps along the way. He grew along the way. He changed along the way. And then he told us that we're like him. We can change along the way. We grow along the way. We grow in love along the way. And Matthew 15:27. Thank you, David. Matthew 15:27. Appreciate you looking that up. There are some evangelicals who pass judgment if you don't agree with what they think or say. Yes, there are. Yes, there's lots of them because they're literalists and they see the Bible as this closed circle of where it's self-referencing, and they, well, it excludes rather than includes. But you know what? Even if they say you're all going to hell, they're probably not going to hell either, and neither are you. It doesn't matter what they say. I saw this cartoon this morning by the Naked Pastor. He's a great guy, David Hayworth, and it's the pearly gates. And I assume it's St. Peter at the pearly gates, and there's a person who shows up, and there's a barrel, and it's full of junk, and St. Peter's looking at a clipboard, and he says, "Hey, yeah, you got to throw your bad theology in there before you come in. You got to throw all your theology away before you go into heaven. There's no language, there's no religion, there's only love and compassion. truth and understanding, healing and wholeness. There's no judgment there, just love. Let's see. Thank you, David. Look at the Bible through the lens of love. Amen. Thank you, Peter. You're welcome. Wendy, can you please add the link to your video, Meditation Made Easy, in the comments section? Probably can. Can't right now, but I probably can. Yeah. Hey, Brother Ed. I see your message was retracted. Belinda, stars and love to you. Thanks, Charles. Thank you, Charles. Lee, love that. Throw your theology away before you enter. That's definitely what happened. I had theology before I died. I had religion before I died. All of that got washed away, all of it, and just left love behind. That's it. About Jesus, Oscar. About Jesus, then it doesn't. Okay, I don't know what more you meant, my brother. Your wisdom is delicious to my soul. Thanks, Ed. I recall my priest friends who dared not cross from preaching to meddling. Civil rights was meddling. Yeah. Um, when I was a church pastor, I was restricted from talking about, I could talk in generalized terms, but I wasn't able to talk directly about things like LGBTQI until we hired an organist who was gay. And then we had to talk about it finally. We forced that conversation. But the mainline churches, the evangelicals, opposite of the evangelicals, the mainline churches have restrictions, social restrictions about meddling behavior and meddling conversation. Evangelical churches, not so much. Jesus meddled all the time. He was a meddler. Confession, I can hardly wait to get there and think I told you so to several people. LOL. Yeah, yes, yeah, I can understand that, but you won't have that thought when you're dead. You'll be just like, ah, it'll be just so soothing, so soothing. Oh my gosh, so soothing. I don't know why that was so hard to say. Love is above everything, above knowledge, creativity, etc. Well, love in heaven, love and knowledge and creativity, compassion, wellness, beauty, understanding, intellect, joy, they're all one thing. They're not separate like they are here. They're singular. They're singular, the singular nature of the divine being, united in the what? United in the light and the love? Hmm. I'm so funny. I like humor. I think God's pretty funny. God made us. Hey, all ego. Ouch. Yeah, it's the ego's the problem. You got to have ego to live, but it's also the problem. You got to have ego to live in the world, but it's the thing that makes us so judgy, so rejecting others, so raising ourselves above the other when really we're exactly the same as everyone else, even our enemy, even those who disagree with us politically or religiously or culturally or whatever. We are the same children of the divine, made of goodness and love. It's just that our egos get in the way because this is what we think we are. That's why contemplation really matters rather than knowledge. Contemplation matters more because it skims away the ego layer by layer by layer. It's like, have you ever made ghee or clarified butter and you boil up the butter and the fat comes to the top and you skim it off and it takes forever to skim that thing off. You got to skim and you got to skim and you got to skim and you got to skim, and that's what contemplation does. It skims and skims and skims until the butter of your soul is clarified. And then you get to see the other person beyond their gender, beyond their race, beyond their nationality, because you still see those things. You're not blind. You're not blind to the color of a person's skin or their gender, but you see, more importantly, you see the light inside them. And when you see the light inside them, those other things, they matter a whole lot less. A whole lot less. And when Jesus looked at that woman's heart finally, because he was distracted, whatever he was doing, wasn't paying attention to her soul. And when he looked into her soul, then he saw the love there, the light there. Yeah. I know, Peter, LOL. I just wanted to lighten the mood. Oh, Stardust. Yeah, I like light. Uh, a little late, Betty, but welcome. Down East Rocky. Hey, Umena. You're here. Thanks for showing up. And I want to say that I don't have a Maine accent or a Boston accent because I had it trained out of me. And Maine's accent and Boston's accent is very similar. And we don't pronounce our R's much. Um, but mine was trained away. When I started in love, just be love. Love shows up when having ego driven focus. Love seems behind the thick wall like reminder. Yeah. What Karen Elise I think is meaning here is that when she first started her practice, love was distant from her, and when she began to focus on love, it penetrated the wall of herself and became a living thing inside her. And that's really where the strength of spirituality lies, is when the light becomes a living presence in you. And all we have to do is get out of the way of it for it to be present for us. Get out of the way of it for it to be present for us. The love will penetrate us and radiate through us. And we experience it between ourselves and among ourselves. The fruits of the Spirit. Love equals the fruits of the Spirit and humor. Yeah, definitely. Our spirit knows is love. The human is here to experience it. Pete, you're helping us move from dark to light, from ego to love. Thank you, Robert. That's my goal, is to help all of us, including myself, because I am still on my journey. Just like you guys are on your journey, I am still, like you all are on your journey, I'm still on my journey. I am still in human form. I still get skin I'm in, and I'm still striving. Even Jesus was doing the same thing when he was alive. He was striving to the light itself always. This is a journey for all of us. And we're doing this together. And I'm doing my best to help everyone find that path inside themselves as I walk my own. So thanks for saying so, Robert. Ego, edging God out. Oh, that's clever. I like that, Charlene. Thanks. Edging God out, ego. Love the clarified butter metaphor. Thanks, Kristen. I just made that up. Just like, oh my gosh, what's the word? Clarified butter. Thanks. No wonder I love butter. Yeah, I like butter too much. Okay, confession time. I like butter too much. If I have one food that is a problem for me, and if I only have one, the worst is butter. If I have others, well, then there's a long list. But butter is like butter. So, no wonder I love butter. Like me, he seems a one-man war, contradiction to the core. This parable of human plight, screaming love into the night. Wow, who is that? Is that your poem, Oscar? Like me, he seems a one-man war, contradiction to the core, this parable of human plight, screaming love into the night. That's a beautiful little poem because I'm thinking it speaks for you and me and many others. Jennifer, I love the analogy. Beautiful soul you are. Thank you, Jennifer. Rob, you're sorry that you were late today. It's cool. You can always catch up, brother. By watching the video again is what I mean. Um, Love that. Let's see what else we got here. The heart of the butterfly extends through and into their wings, says Belinda. Yeah, the heart of the butterfly came from inside the caterpillar, and the transfiguration happens, and that same heart then spreads out into the wings and lifts the caterpillar off the ground into the flight of the heavens. Lee, what you just said about the light shining through us, that's what triggers the anger sometimes as we see the injustices more clearly and realize that we can't remain silent. Yeah, I know how that is, Lee. A little deeper in, a little deeper in, when you realize the transient nature of living life, it makes the bearing of the burden easier. But still, we need to stand and speak the truth of light and love, no matter what it takes from us. You're right about that, though, Lee. Rhode Island doesn't pronounce Oz either, ka for ka. Yeah, that's right, John. Pita. My family calls me pita, like the bread. Um, thanks, Anna. Thank you very much. Beautiful poem. That was a beautiful poem. Russell, likewise. S- we're skipping back. Robert, yay, Pete, New York City, represent. Guy, you're terrific. Yay, New York City. NYC. Gosh, you guys have it tough right now. Stay safe there. Keep loving. It's a great place to live. Uh, GPS, brilliant, Peter. Bookmark to rewatch periodically. Thank you, brother. Thank you very much. Or sister, I really don't know GPS, your gender, and that makes no difference. I should just call you they. I should call you they. And I am learning here. I'm a boomer, right? So I am learning to change my language. I'm trying to adapt my language and get out of my bad habits of just he and she. Because I have transgender friends too. And I'm trying to figure that out inside myself. Even I am learning to change. Just kidding. Of course, I'm learning to change. I'm doing it all the time. Um, I hear you describing us as God exploring non God. Maybe the ego is the turbulent boundary in all of us. And that's a really interesting thing, Steve, because there's this thing called process theology, came out of the University of Chicago, and in it describes this the Godhead, this singular unitive being, then reaching out and exploring the universe through all of us. And it's this interface area. The ego is the interface area between the divine self and the world self. That's the place where this interface happens. Um, totally. We are God exploring non-God, even though everything is made of God. Everything, the universe is all made of the divine self, but it's also much reduced and different in nature because it has physicality to it, and the divine has no physicality. I like that very much. I'm going to think on that, Steve. Thanks for bringing that in today. Tamara, beautiful poem. Likewise is Russell. Hey, Russell over there and the UK. Tamara, do you have any use of crystals? I used crystal radio when I was a kid. And so crystals is really interesting structure because it contains electricity. I had a crystal radio set. I do have crystals. I don't have them out. I don't use them. Um, in the same way that I don't use incense for my meditation, I don't use music for my meditation, which is a lot of people like music, a lot of people like crystals. I don't use them myself because I want to contain all of my spirituality in my physical form. I don't want to use something outside myself. People like crystals, use your crystals. As for me, I don't use them. I'd rather have all of the my spirituality um, concentrated in my own mind and my own heart, so that I can work these two things no matter where I am, and I don't need any sort of external device to help me with the practice. So that's why I'm all about stripping it down, and stripping it down, and stripping it down. Even language gets stripped away. Even thought gets stripped away. But if crystals work for you, use them. Um, off topic, totally cool. Most excellent. PETA, full of knowledge and love, Anna. Especially in the turbulent times we find ourselves living right now, it's so hard. People get so angry if you say anything controversial, even violent. I know, Connie, it's so crazy. I posted up yesterday on Facebook or the day before that I got my second vaccination. And I said, I'm working toward herd immunity, and I know that there are a bazillion variants out there now, especially down there in poor Brazil, and other places too have variants here in Maine, and maybe we won't reach herd immunity. And somebody got upset. You're not going to reach herd immunity. You shouldn't talk about that. That's an exaggeration of what he said. He said it very kindly. But it's true. No matter what you say, someone's going to attack you. So when you can either be quiet or you can accept the idea that you're going to be attacked no matter what you say. And then in your chanting, in your meditation, you can work to get out those anxieties. And I work to get out my anxieties and my own repetitions. Well, he said this thing to me. He said this thing to me. He said this thing to me over in my head, like everybody does. Well, meditation eliminates that. And then I don't have to carry that kind of stuff. But yeah, I expect to get attacked if you have anything to say. That's the deal today. I'm sorry that it is that way. And there's a little poem for you, full of end rhyme. Yeah, it's so hard. I have friends on all sides of. I have friends among all sorts of people. It's a crazy thing in my world. Um, I try not to talk politics. I try only to talk about compassion. Yeah, as I do my best for that. I'm so excited to hear you engage with process theology. Yeah, Steve, learned about it in div school. Been thinking about it ever since. I've got a lot more to think about on it and more to say on it because I've been thinking and thinking and thinking about it. I'm glad to hear that you know what that is. Let's talk more about process theology in salon. Yeah, that's a good idea, Wendy. So let's talk about process theology in our salon today. In our salon, for those of you who are new here, I need a sip of water. And I want to say thank you, Wendy, for the glass, um, and Harry, because I think Harry made it too. Harry probably made the glass. Anyway, so we have our salon. It's a conversation space that's private, and you can come and join us and just listen in. It's a group wisdom sort of thing. Everybody brings their own understanding and their knowledge and their spirituality, and we share out of our mystical experiences and out of our knowledge, and we have conversation. It's well, it can be brilliant. And there's a lot of brilliant people who show up and bring brilliant ideas and deep spirituality to the group. And the links are at peterpanagore.love. You're welcome, Tamara. Um, Authenticity and transparency, says Belinda. Yeah, authenticity and transparency. Not pretending, being real and showing self. That's where it's at. Jesus was doing that too. He didn't have a publicist and somebody who spun his public image. He just was who he was. Take it or leave it, kind of thing. And as a result, he ticked off the wrong people, or maybe he ticked off the right people, and they killed him for it. But look what has started as a result: the opportunity to understand that heaven awaits us all, and that the consciousness of the Christ consciousness is always here present. The divine is always present for us. He brought that up. He brought that to the forefront. Yeah, it got squished and smushed and crushed and set aside and locked in a vault somewhere for centuries, but the truth doesn't go away. It only takes your heart to dive inside yourself to find it there living. And it comes along with this thing that obliterates the difference between you and me, the difference between the right and the left. It unifies us in the love itself. And as long as we focus on the love itself, we get to reach our hands across the aisles and grip the hands of other humans who may have different ideas than us, but the ideas are temporary too. socially, culturally, contextually based. They are not lasting, they are impermanent. What is permanent is the heart inside them, the goodness that is inside each of us. And that's what we reach toward in our love. And we can then disagree about the world and yet agree about the love, which is eternal. And that's what binds us. Always the same for me, back to basics. Yeah, I'm always going back to the basics too. Centers are also without Vipassana centers all also run without the externals, incense, photos, music. MG says, yeah, the deeper forms of spirituality, the deeper forms of contemplation, they only use you. They only use you. You can use your voice, that's you. You can Gregorian chant and Om out loud, that's you. But the deeper you go, the less you use language, the less you use the externals, because you don't need them. They're temporary too. You have everything you need right here, right here. The combination, the connection of these two things. The open mind opens the heart, and the open heart lets the light in. And when the light comes in, it naturally flows out. Vipassana yoga. Good thing that is. You are a student of Paramahansa Yogananda. You are a Kriya Ban. You are a student. I am a student of Paramahansa Yogananda, um, and I use Kriya Yoga. I'm a Kriya Yogi, and I combine that with centering prayer, and it super works for me. Peter, since I first saw your NDE video, says Rob over there in Wales, I have always wondered if you're still in contact with Tim from ice climbing. No, I want to be. I have not been able to find Tim, and I'm really rather hoping that he finds me. And when I published that book, when I published that book, I had a letter in it, a Dear Tim letter. Dear Tim, I hope you find me. But my publisher made me take it out because he said, if Tim ever reads it, he's going to contact me. But I did a lot of research to try to find him. I went with help, okay, with help. I went to I don't think they're called wardens in Canada, but I went to the equivalent of the Canadian Warden Service to go back through the logs, and I couldn't find him. I went back to Montana State University, but Tim was only there for a year and he didn't have any record there. I tried to find him. I know he's from Iowa. That's all that's what I got. And one of these days, Tim, one of these days, Tim, I hope you find me. And then we can have a conversation. I really wanted to talk to him before I wrote it because I wanted his input. But what can you do? Um, the peeling away in meditation has brought an expanding wisdom, perception. So grateful. Thanks for teaching me, says Karen Elise. Karen Elise has been one of my students for several years. We read through several books together on mysticism. Meditation peels away the false self. And Karen says it right here. The peeling away in meditation has brought an expanding wisdom, not a singular wisdom. The wisdom expands. It expands. It gets bigger and bigger. The more you pursue it, the more space, empty space you have inside yourself, the more it fills you. And meditation is the key. It is the key. It's the key. It's the key. And did you know that one of the keys the evangelical clergy don't want you to have is the meditation key? They don't like meditation. Why? I have no idea, but they don't like it. They think it's of the devil. And yoga is of the devil. It's not. It's the stripping away of the self. It's getting rid of the thing that stands between you and God. And it is the gift that keeps on giving. The more you practice, the deeper you go, the wider the channel becomes. You want wisdom? Seek the divine inside yourself. Seek heaven above all things. Seek the beloved. Seek the beloved with all your heart, mind, and soul. You're welcome, Karen Elise. I am so pleased to know you. And when we first met, I knew you had this in you, and you do. How can I tune out the ghosts? Since my third eye open, you have ghosts. Yeah, okay, so there are downsides to this thing. Um, you don't need to tune them out so much as maybe tell them that they can go home. You can ask them to turn to the light. They don't need to stay, that they can go home. But it is a downside of opening yourself up, because you don't just open yourself up to the divine presence. When you strip away your ego, you begin to perceive other realities. And I've had a few ghosts in my life, and one in particular was a little troublesome. Not It wasn't harmful to me. He's just like always hanging around me. And I got a little help from a friend of mine, a near death experiencer, who told me, this is what she said to me: just ask him to go home. Just tell him to turn to the light. And I did, and he went. He pops in every so often, but he's gone back to the divine. He was just stuck here, that's all. He had a tragic death, and he got stuck, and now he's gone home. Yeah. If you want to talk to me more about it, Tamara, we can chat it out over a conversation if you want to book an appointment. Check out Christina Lopez's YouTube channel and her video on tuning out negative thoughts. Pretty brilliant, says Wendy. Thanks about that, Wendy, for bringing that in. We've got a couple of minutes left here. Not even mantras at a 10-day Vipassana center. Not even mantras at a 10-day Vipassana centers. Yeah, you end up without it. I've never done Vipassana retreat. I've only read about it. It's not been my experience. So I'd love to hear a little more about what that's like, um, as someone who's experienced it. Did you have an initiation with Brahmahan's Yogananda group? No, I did not. I am an errant soul. I have a yogi guru, and that my yogi guru is God. And I read Paramahansa Yogananda. I can tell you about that experience. Why I, in brief, I read the chapter. I think it's chapter 26, about Kriya Yoga, and I was in a mime class, and I found my chi and my prana and a chi ball, and I could move it, and I realized that Yogananda was telling the truth, and I just began the practice. I am not an initiate. Uh, but they came and spoke to me a couple years ago. The Self Realization Fellowship sent a couple of emissaries to me. I even ended up talking to their head office. They invited me to come and join them because they had heard my IANS video from 2017 at the conference, and they said that I sound like them. So my practice has been outside of the Self Realization Fellowship, but my practice, according to them, shows that the practice works. The science of Kriya Yoga works. And I figured that if Yogananda was right, I could find these things because I had an extra juiced. I came back from death juiced. And so yeah, it works. I hope that helps, Tamara. Do what works. Yeah, do what works. I use externals to move. Yeah, I have a lot of people who use externals, and that's totally fine. I sometimes use music while I'm doing my yoga, but not always. Once in a while, recently, I use nature meditation. Use what works for you. That's my advice. And I don't expect anybody to practice the way that I practice. You practice the forms that work for you. I'm not here to tell you what to do or how to do it. You can find your way. I provide tools that you're welcome to use and ideas that you're welcome to think about. But I know that you are not your body and that your soul can speak to you if you merely find ways to get out of the way. That it's a beautiful thing. So yeah, Robert, use the things that work for you. Out of all of the near-death experiences I've seen, and I've seen 200, you're my favorite, and I loved your book. Thanks, Tamara. I appreciate that. When I wrote that book, I'd only, I think I'd read Into the Light. I guess the one book I read, and Raymond Moody's book, Life to Afterlife, and I wanted the book to stand on its own. I didn't want to be unduly influenced by other people's thinking about their near-death experience, so that I would present it in a way that either stood or fell in the near-death community. Um, and so far, it's stood, and I'm grateful for that. And I'm grateful for you for saying what you said. Um, there are tens of millions of us around the globe, and I think, I don't know, I think, and my anecdotal evidence shows that love really is what we all come back with. And that's what I want to be true. All right, a couple more minutes, and I'm going to take a break here before not sure, Mystic Tea Salon. How do you know if a thought that you have originates from yourself? That's a really great question, Paul. If you want to come to the salon, we can talk about it there. We've got that's coming up in a couple of minutes. I channel when I write. Okay, so I haven't talked much about that. It's like a muse lands inside my heart and speaks to me, and I just listen and I write it. I think that, how do I discern between my own thoughts and the thoughts of the divine that arise inside me? One is selfless and one is selfish. I think that's the easiest way to put it. All right, my friends, I'm gonna have to say goodbye here because I only got 3 minutes and I have to take a little break. So let's say a little prayer. Mystic Tea Salon, thanks for coming, everybody. Thanks for all the super chats. Thanks for all the PayPals and the Venmos, because you really do keep this thing going. Thanks for the likes and the alerts and the subscriptions. But I'm going to say a little quick little thing, and I got like 2 minutes. I got to take a little break. So let's center ourselves. Thanks for coming. Be present with us always. Teach us your way. Guide us in light. Unite us in love. Lead us in truth. Give us courage to speak. Give us courage to love. Give us courage to grow. Give us courage to die to ourselves, that you might live inside us and unite us as one people globally, one people of love, one people of heart, across all of our barriers, across all of our aisles, across all of our differences. Let your light live inside us, that we see it inside everyone we meet. Peace be with you all, my friends. I'll see you next week. Thanks for coming. Mystic Tea Salon in a minute or less. Love you all. Please like the video if it helps you with YouTube ratings. Yes, thank you. Thank you, David. See you soon.